Hello, fellow professionals. My name is Jack Wynn. I founded a hair color company called Jack Wynn Pro. And I would love to share with you a little bit about our permanent hair color, Envelop permanent hair color. In fact, it's going to be a lot of it. We're going to get into deep product knowledge about Envelop permanent hair color. So the first thing I want to share with you is in Envelop permanent hair color, we use 4 botanical ingredients. We use argan oil for shine, rice protein for strength, aloe to take care of the scalp, and calendula for softness. So when we chose these botanical ingredients, we really did it with purpose. And I'll kind of highlight 2 botanical ingredients to show you the kind of purposefulness that we had when we were choosing these botanical ingredients. So aloe to really take care of the scalp. So when we think about scalp health, we don't necessarily think about hair color, but if you want to have beautiful hair color, you've got to have that really beautiful hair growing out of the scalp. So you've got to really nourish the scalp the hair is growing from. And so I'll tell you a funny kind of anecdotal story about my past. I got to formulate with several other hair color companies before I launched Jack Wynn Pro and started formulating for myself. And I sat with a group of business people in one hair color meeting and I said, hey guys, I really think that we should put some aloe in this product to create a healthy scalp environment so the hair will look more beautiful after it's colored. And they said, you know, you can't change the scalp in one coloring service. And I said, hey, you're totally right. But the aloe will nurture that scalp, and over, you know, a 6-month to a year period of time, having regular coloring treatments, there'll be a healthier scalp and the hair growing out of the scalp will look more beautiful. And so for that reason, I think we should really worry about the scalp when formulating hair color. And they said, you know, we won't get any credit for that as a manufacturer, so let's not waste money on those ingredients. And it broke my heart, and I always knew when we formulated a hair color, we'd put ingredients that took care of the scalp because it makes the hairdresser look good when their clients have thicker, healthier, more beautiful hair. So taking care of the scalp was important to us, so that's why we chose aloe. Rice protein is another one I love to talk about. So when people talk about protein, they worry about protein creating stiff hair or more brittle hair, but rice protein is a really special one because rice actually attracts moisture, and rice is a very flexible protein. So think about if you drop your cell phone in water, you'll put it in rice because rice will pull that moisture out of your cell phone. The same way rice in the hair pulls the moisture into the hair and is going to create softer, more supple hair, but very strong hair. So that's why we chose rice protein. So we're very thoughtful about the botanical ingredients that go in Envelop permanent hair color. Okay, now here's an interesting story that makes Envelop permanent hair color so different. And I really want to connect with any experienced hairdressers who are watching right now. So many experienced hairdressers, when I share with them about our botanical ingredients or Envelop permanent hair color, will look at me and they'll say, Jack, is this line a warm line or a cool line? And that's actually a interesting question to me because it leads me to believe that other lines are either warm or cool. And the truth is, I know they are. But the reason why an experienced hairdresser can say, oh, this line's warm and that line's cool, you know, without naming any other brand names, you know the ones that are warm and you know the ones that are cool. And the reason one line might be warm is because they start off with a base formula and they make everything off that base formula. And that base formula is either warm or cool. And then they add things to it to make it lighter or darker, warmer or cooler, things like that. But they're starting off with that same base. At Jack Wynn Pro, we formulate every single shade from the ground up. So we only make 1,600 of these at once. So basically one 50-gallon drum of hair color at one time. And we actually put a unique formula in every single time we formulate. So we really small vat. Question that was just asked of me today, and I was like, this is a fantastic question because I'm going into product knowledge, is how can we create consistency vat over vat each time we do a small vat? And that's a really great question. Fun fact about Jack Wynn Pro is when we manufacture Envelop permanent hair color, we pull 1 out of every 100 that comes off the line. So let's say we're making 1,600 tubes, that means we're going to take 1,600 away. So as it's coming off the line, we pull the first one, the 101st one, the 201st one, and so on. So we're pulling 1 out of every 100 off the line. And we actually take that, and some of them will process, and we'll put on swatches so we have a comparison when we do that the next time and make sure that it looks the same, it performs the same, we put it on the same type of hair. So we actually do a comparison test after every formulation, and then we'll use about 8 of those tubes just to compare and make sure that things are looking consistent. After it's been through that hopper to fill it up, that last tube is consistent with the first tube and a few from the middle. So we really check consistency, so important to us. And another thing that we do that is so different than any other manufacturer is we actually library the remaining 8 tubes, and we put some in a really hot environment and some in a really cool environment and somebody in a really light exposed environment, so that we know for 5 years how our color is lasting in extreme conditions. So if somebody calls us and says, hey, I had this funny experience, I can say, oh, look at the lot number on the tube, let me check it out. And I can check in my library to make sure that there's nothing weird that's happened to that. And it's so awesome, 4 years later, we've not had one experience in our library of colors where we had a malfunction. So interesting fact. Now, you don't want to leave this in your car in the summer and have it get 160 degrees or something like that. But in the environment of like an unair conditioned salon that maybe gets to 100 degrees, you're still totally safe. So don't leave it in your car, because that can get very, very, very hot in the summer, but you're pretty safe in an unair conditioned salon. So interesting facts about how we make sure things are really consistent, and we invest so much money in making sure that we're giving you guys absolute quality, and absolute quality that'll last. Okay, some other things that we should talk about are when you choose Envelop permanent hair color. You're gonna choose Envelop permanent hair color when you wanna go lighter, changing level and tone, or when you want to cover gray hair. If you're gonna go darker and change level and tone, you might consider choosing our Demi Permanent Color Restore. But we'll focus on when you're going lighter and changing level and tone, or when you're covering gray hair. Those will be the 2 big times you would choose Envelop permanent hair color. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about gray coverage. With gray coverage with Envelop, this does have incredible gray coverage. If you are just depositing and covering gray, a lot of hairdressers will choose 10 volume. I personally choose 20 volume every single time I cover gray hair. But if you're worried about exposure of underlying pigment, and you know you're just depositing to cover gray, you don't need to lighten and change level and tone, and you know that client has easy to normal gray, you can use 10 volume. For me personally, because I don't have time in my life to ever have a redo, I'm always using 20 volume for gray coverage. Another big tip or trick is to whisk really, really well when you're using Envelop permanent hair color, especially when you're covering gray hair. Remember, timing for Envelop is 30 minutes under normal conditions. With gray hair, it's gonna be 35 minutes. So tips and tricks on gray coverage, great gray coverage choice. Okay, if you've been watching and you happen to have a product guide, you can rewatch this video and grab your product guide, because I'm gonna show you a few things that are here in this product guide. I won't hold it up or point it out to you necessarily, but if you're rewatching, or if you just wanna pause it and grab a product guide, if you're brand new to JWP Pro, please feel free to do that. But some interesting things are we have mixers or tone intensifiers or kickers or whatever fun, funky name you wanna give to it. I call them our mixers or toner intensifiers. I've heard people refer to them as kickers, but they're pure pigments that you can use to adjust the tone of your hair color. So for example, one of my very favorite formulas, feel free to write it down, guys, is 8.1 with light ash mixer and 20 volume developer. I use this for my tint between the packets on that blonde client who wants to be really blonde, as none of their natural showing, and wants to be cool. So here's the formula. Get ready to write it down. I do 8.1, 30 grams, 0.1 light ash mixer, 15 grams, and 45 grams of 20 volume developer. That's my formula. Now, what I want you to notice is we're mixing Envelop permanent hair color 1 part color to 1.5 parts activator. But you'll notice I didn't adjust the activator to accommodate for that developer. So I'm gonna restate that statement for you. Envelop permanent hair color is mixed 1 to 1.5. 1 part color, 1.5 parts activator. So if my light ash mixer wasn't in that formula, it would still be 30 grams of 8.1 and 45 grams of 20 volume developer. But I added 15 grams of 0.1 to make it a bit cooler, but I didn't change the developer. So remember that, guys. Same with gray coverage, you'll do like, let's say 5 in, 30 grams, 45 grams for a retouch. That's a pretty conservative mixture ratio. People tease me because they say I overmix hair color, but most of my clients, when I see a client on a regular basis, I'm using 60 grams of color, 90 grams of activator. So little formula, little interesting bits about additives or kickers or tone intensifiers, whatever you want to call them. So 0.1, that's light ash mixer. You can be aggressive with that one. Don't be afraid to use up to 50% of your formula with light ash mixer. So you'll notice I did 30 grams of 8.1, which is a level 8 ash color, with 15 grams of light ash mixer, or 0.1. So you notice it's about 50% of the color I put in that formula. It's okay. Don't be afraid of it. It's not going to make your client gray or purple. It'll just really cool them off. Now, where you want to be conservative is down in those darker pigments, like 0.7 or the dark ash mixer is quite green. You want to really only use that on a level 6 or darker, and you want to be super conservative with it. Don't overmix it. So I'll show you here in this swatch book. You can see just down here 0.1 all the way to one side and 0.7 all the way to the other. So I always say if you read them like a book and you can kind of be most liberal or use the most down to most conservative at the end. Another one to really caution you on is 0.2 violet mixer. I love to caution you guys on violet mixer because it is a beautiful mixer. We're really happy it's in the line, but it's not the kind of violet that you're going to use to neutralize yellow. You're going to use light ash for that. It's the kind of violet that you'll use to accentuate a redhead. You might put it in like, let's say 5.6, a level 5 red tone, to make it a little bit richer or more mahogany in tone. That's when you'd use 0.2. You could also use it in, let's say, 5.3, which is a 5 gold, to add some richness or make it more chocolatey. So these are times when 0.2 is awesome. Where you don't want to use 0.2 is like in 9.1, level 9 cool. You don't want to add 0.2 thinking you're going to cut yellow because you're going to end up with lavender roots or pinkish roots on that client. So definitely don't do it up in those higher levels. Big one to really look out for. So tips and tricks on mixers, definitely play around with them. Please don't be afraid of them. They really make you feel like that artist that I know you are. You're gonna use them, you're gonna love them, and they're gonna get you those like really aggressive looks that you're looking for. So super fun ones to know about mixers. Another thing I wanna point out to you guys are light pastels. These are permanent hair color toners. For us, a permanent hair color toner is anything that ends in an L. So for us, 9.1L, 9.3L, 9.23L, those are our permanent hair color toners. Let me tell you about a permanent hair color toner. The time that you will use and love permanent hair color toners are, let's say you're doing a global application of lightener. That global application of lightener, let's say it lifts up to like a baby chick yellow, and you're looking at that global application of lightener and you're thinking to yourself, do I need to re-lighten this, or could a toner work? The permanent hair color toner is going to be your perfect solution. A time where you won't love that permanent hair color toner is when you've done, like on, let's say, a natural level 6, you've highlighted her and you don't want to bump her base. The permanent hair color toner might affect her base, make it warmer than you actually want. At the same time, it's toning her highlights. So it wouldn't be great in that situation. So permanent hair color toners will affect the base, but on global application of lightener, you don't have a base to worry about because you've done a global application of lightener. So really, really fun things to think about when it comes to mixers. Another one that I really, really love to talk about is 5.7 or 4.7. So 5.7 is our level 5 green, and 4.7 is our level 4 green. Now, you don't have to worry about these if you're using them on the right base. A lot of people look at those and they're really scared of them. They're actually fantastic if you're using them on a client who's a level 5 or lower. Now, let me point out a level 5 or lower. That means if they have a few highlights from the past that are lighter than level 5, you'll turn those highlights green. That means if they have some gray hairs, you might turn those gray hairs green. So you need to address those separately than the rest of the hair if you really, but I'm telling you, on those clients, how do I say this politely? The clients who always say, I still see red in my hair, and you tell them that you don't see red, but deep down in your heart, you know you see a little bit of red. Those are the clients that 5.7 and 4.7 are gonna be absolutely fantastic for. You guys, we have several shades in the Envelop permanent hair color line that are double pigments for gray coverage. So we have like 4.00, 5.00, 6.00, and 8.00. So we've got several that are double pigment gray coverage. Those double pigment gray coverage, they're gonna give you a really, really like flat shoe polishy finish. They're actually, every one of our gold tones and natural tones in the whole line does a great job of gray coverage. Those double pigments are that situation where you have a client who's, let's say, a level 5 salt and pepper, and you want it to have an even, no highs, no lows kind of finish. That's when you're gonna choose those double pigments for gray coverage, is when you get to a client who has a big contrast between their natural hair and their gray hair, like let's say it's 3 or 4 levels of difference. That is when you're gonna choose those double pigments. Now, I will tell you, if you want to get gray coverage with, let's say, our red, it's like 6.4 or 5.4, you'll want to add one of our gold shades, like 5.3 or 6.3. So you can actually use our 0.3s to get gray coverage, or as an additive to help get gray coverage in the other ones. Same with your cools. If you want to get gray coverage with a 6.1, you can use 6 natural to add some natural to it. So hopefully some little tips and tricks on gray coverage, understanding that both our naturals and our 0.3s are great tools when it comes to covering gray hair. I want to tell you a little bit about understanding the double tones in our line. So I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna use my whiteboard to help you guys understand the double tones in our line. So I'll use an example that is, I'm gonna give you a few examples. We're gonna do 6.2 and 4.22. Kelsey, can you see these on my camera?
You can. If you make it just a little bit bigger, that would help.
I like it. You guys, forgive my sloppy writing, but you'll get the lesson. 6.2, 4.22. Okay, so in 6.2, can you see all that, Kelsey?
I sure can.
Awesome. So think about this. In 6.2, you're going to have about 1/3 of the formula, that is that 0.2 or the violet, right? And then the remainder is going to be natural. So all of this is natural, right? All of that's natural. This is violet. Now, when you think about 4.2, you're going to have all of this. You've got double pigment of violet in here, and only about half of the formula is natural. So this is a way to think about these ones. I'm gonna give you another one that I absolutely love to talk about. One of my very favorites, and we make so many of these, and people just absolutely love them. Our 0.13. So we'll talk about 8.13. So for us, this would be a level 8, so a blonde. And then this represents blue or cool, and this represents G or gold. What's interesting about this is people think like an 8BG, you put some gold in here, so it's gonna be warm, I'm not gonna wanna use it. But it's actually really fascinating when you think about this. You've got your natural over here, right? All of this natural. And then you've got a little bit of gold. A little bit of gold, and then you got a lot of that 0.1 or blue, right? So you think about this guy, and what's interesting about this is you've got all this 0.1, you've taken out some natural to put in that gold. And because you're adding extra pigment here, you actually get really great beigey neutralization of underlying pigment. So sometimes you'll find you get a more cool result with this guy. Can I write all the way down here?
You can.
Okay, so if you think about 8.1, and 8.1 is gonna look like this. 0.1, a little bit of blue, and then all this natural left over here. 8.1 is interesting because I actually find I get better neutralization of underlying pigment with this because it's more intensely pigmented and it's a beautiful beige tone. Whereas this one might be slightly more transparent, so you're seeing more underlying pigment because it's not a double pigment shade. So fun facts about our 0.13, so we've got 8.13, 6.13, and 7.13, really, really good ones. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about our Envelop permanent hair color today. And I will tell you guys, if you're here because someone invited you and you're wanting to learn more about JWP Pro, I want to tell you a story about just being a confident, comfortable hairdresser. I want to say to you, yes, we make better product. We small that, we use high quality pharmaceutical grade ingredients, but the power is actually in your hands. You guys are incredible artists, and so many different companies will use marketing slogans. Like I'll tell you one that I've had a question on before, like, is your color calibrated? How many parts red and how many parts yellow and how many parts blue and how many parts, red and this or that? Most of that is all marketing terms. These are oxidative dyes. They're not made up of primary colors. Those are all terms that they use in a marketing fashion to explain hair color to people and to get people to basically believe that they're the only company doing this special thing that maybe they're not even doing. So I want you guys to remember from a guy whose roots are being a hairdresser who then studied chemistry and has been in the lab. We make the highest quality products that we possibly can, source the highest quality ingredients, and we try and bring them to you in a very, very honest way. So we don't have any special calibrated line that we talk about. What we do is we small vat every single shade. We make sure that it's a true level 8 or a true level 6 or a true level 5, whatever the case may be, so that we are bringing you the best possible hair color at every level in every shade every single time. So thanks for learning a little bit more about Envelop permanent color with me.